Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Max Story.
Happy New Year, folks. If you're listening to this podcast on the day it releases, today is January 1st, 2024. So I hope you've had a safe and enjoyable holiday season. Hope you're ready to make things happen this year. So I'm interrupting my 30-part series on my book, Who's Buying You Until You Sell Yourself? You Won't Sell Much. Hopefully you've been listening to that series. You enjoying it. Just to kick off the new year, I just wanted to take and kind of do like a special episode. So I went through my quote file. If you've been listening to me long enough, you know I've got thousands, more than I'm ever going to share. But I went through and pulled out some. I pulled out about 10 quotes or things content I had put in my quote file. Most of them are quotes. There's one, some of them sound a little bit more like a story than a quote because they're a little bit like a paragraph or so. But hopefully you'll find these interesting, and I'll talk to each one of them a little bit. But I want to start you off today with one of my favorite quotes on this topic from Karen Lamb. And she says, "A year from now, you will wish you started today." So if you've been procrastinating, you think back to this time last year, whatever you were thinking about was going to happen in 2023, I hope you made it happen. If you didn't, a year from now, you'll wish you had started today. I think you probably understand what that means. It's so easy to put off stuff. And some of these other quotes that I share with you, they're going to hopefully provoke some thought, raise your awareness. That's the whole point of this podcast today, talking about these different quotes and stories, a few things I'm going to share with you. But just want to pause if you're listening, and it doesn't matter if you're listening to this on the day it came out or some point in time later. It's still going to apply. Everything's still going to apply. But I just did this episode because I saw it was coming out on New Year's Day, 2024. So I want to share a story. This one is related to General Colin Powell. You may remember him. He's passed away now, but he was an Army general, and he was in politics and government, Secretary of State or something, I believe, at some point. Did a lot of things, but anyway, it ain't about his politics. But I think I read a book of his. I know I did. I can't remember the name of it. Maybe it was, let me see right here. I got it right here on my bookshelf. It Worked for Me. That was the name of it. I'm pretty sure that's where this story came from. So he says in there, as there's a story in there, it says a 10-year-old boy said, "I want to know if you think you would be where you are today if your parents didn't care whether you were alive or dead." Wow, that's a pretty powerful question from a 10-year-old. Makes you wonder what kind of life he was living. But he was talking to General Colin Powell, who was doing a Q&A session at a Boys and Girls Club. And he had a really good answer, and that's why I'm sharing it with you today. He says, General Powell said, "I don't know." But then he gave a powerful answer. He said, if your parents are not there for you, it doesn't mean the answers aren't there for you. General Powell nailed it. I mean, what a great answer related to being responsible for yourself and not accepting the excuses that average people make every day. No matter what we've been through or maybe going through or will be going through later, maybe in 2024, who knows? The answers we need are always there if we're willing to do the work to find them. But that was a pretty powerful question. I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to give his answer again, just together, so you make sure you get it. The 10-year-old says, "I want to know if you think you would be where you are today if your parents didn't care whether you were alive or dead." General Powell says, I don't know. Then he said, if your parents are not there for you, it doesn't mean the answers aren't there for you. Pretty powerful. He took the excuse away, because the answers are always there for us. No one can take those answers away. You may be searching for some answers today. You may have had a phenomenal holiday season, or it may not have been very good at all. And there's a wide gap between not very good at all or terrible and phenomenal. And I'm sure all of you are listening somewhere on that spectrum from one end to the other. So I don't know how this lesson is going to touch you today. But again, the point of it is to provoke thought and raise your level of awareness. But you got to do it. You may have to hit the pause button on this podcast and think and reflect. I hope you do. You'll get more out of it if you do that. If something resonates with you, hit the pause button. Think on it. Reflect on it. Jot down some notes if you need to. That's the most important thing, is what you're thinking. But the answers are always there. No one can take them away. No one can stop you from finding them. No one but you. That says you're responsible, just like me. I'm responsible for finding my answers. You see me a lot of times. If you follow me on LinkedIn, social media, you see me always. I'm usually saying keep climbing or make it happen. They kind of mean the same thing, but not exactly. Keep climbing means you climbing that mountain ahead of you. You striving for personal improvement. Make it happen says whatever it is on your to-do list, make it happen. Whatever it is you want out of life, make it happen. It's up to you. So now I'll shift gears to another quote I have here from John C. Maxwell. And John says this. He said, there are two kinds of people in this world. Those who want to get things done and those who don't want to make mistakes. How about that? Those who want to get things done, those are the make it happen people I was talking about. And then there's those who don't want to make mistakes. So they just wait. They're waiting for everything to be perfect. And everything may be perfect, except for them, they're not ready. Maybe they don't have the courage to do whatever it is they want to do. I know I talk to a lot of people around the country. And I talk to a whole lot of people who want to make something happen. And a whole lot of those people, they don't ever make it happen. Some of them, they don't want to make mistakes. Some of them I talk to, they telling me they don't want to do it for this reason. They don't want to do it for that reason. Well, what if this? Or what if somebody says this? Or what's somebody going to think? All this stuff, all these excuses. One more time from John, what he had to say. There are two kinds of people in this world. Those who want to get things done and those who don't want to make mistakes. I like being the get things done category myself. I don't know about you. A lot of people talk about it, but ain't many people do it. And it's all about your character. My character, your character. My character determines my life. Your character determines your life. That's why you hear me talk on this podcast endlessly about character development. I always say leadership development equals character development. Personal growth is the foundation of leadership development. All this stuff goes together. Now I'm going to leave you, or I'm not going to leave you because I ain't done yet. I got a good bit more to go, but I'm going to move on to the next quote in thought. And this one is from Bill Hybels. He says this one here. We don't tend to drift into better behavior. I know that's the truth. That's a good quote he had. We don't tend to drift into better behavior. And the reason I know it's the truth, I had to transform myself. If you've listened to my story, you absolutely know that already. If you've ever heard me speak about it or you read my book on transformation, 10 foundational elements of intentional transformation, notice the keyword intentional. I didn't write the book 10 foundational elements if you want to drift. into transformation. That ain't what I wrote. I said 10 foundational elements of intentional transformation. I didn't drift into transformation. I had to be intentional about it. And I also share a lot of those stories in my book, Defining Influence. Increasing your influence increases your options. And if you want a better life, you got to get serious about it. And that's what I picked all these quotes to be, somewhat, motivational, inspirational for you to think about. Maybe to go back and remember this podcast. If you start drifting, go back and listen to this podcast. Make sure you jot down the episode number. It'll be here. But you got to be intentional. You want 2024 to be a much better year than 2023, you got to make it happen. I hope you do. And if you do, I hope you find me on social media or give me a call or send me an email. My phone number and email is at the top of my bluecollarleadership.com website. That's the kind of ROI I'm looking for. I want to know you getting some results because I'm investing in you through this podcast, even though I may not know you. I may have a better vision for your life than you do. I hope I don't, but it's possible. But I want to loan you a little of my belief today that you can make it happen. You got to get all that junk out of your head. You got to get all these negative people out of your life, whatever that means for you. It could be on social media. It could be in real life. It could be at work, changing jobs, whatever it is. It's up to you. But you ain't going to drift into better behavior. All right, let's get into this next quote. Some of you will recognize this gentleman for sure. John Wooden, the legendary basketball coach, college basketball, I believe. I'm pretty sure. I get a lot of these folks mixed up, but I'm pretty sure he lived out his career in college. I don't think he ever went into pros, but he could have, but I don't think so. Anyway, I don't share these quotes because of who the person is that said them. I share them because of the quality of the content within the quote. That's the way it is in all my books. You'll see people that I don't like, people that I don't even know. You read stuff from different types of people in different walks of life. I ain't worried about who the people are. I'm worried about what they said, and in the context that I'm using it in my book or on a podcast or whatever. I'm looking for the golden nuggets. I don't care where I get them from. Some people do, but that's between them and them, and ain't got nothing to do with me. All right. So this quote from John Wooden. He says, "Don't measure yourself by what you have accomplished, but rather by what you should have accomplished with your ability." So when you reflect back on 2023, this is what you need to do right here. Don't measure yourself by what you have accomplished, but rather by what you should have accomplished with your ability. That's the gap you're looking for. Because you may look back and say, well, you may look at yourself and measure yourself against some other people and look at what you accomplished and think you killed it. So you think you're doing fine. But when you do that second half of his quote, when you measure yourself by what you should have accomplished with your ability, and you get real, and you think about how much time you wasted on meaningless activity, all kinds. I ain't even going to list them off. You know what you've been doing that was wasting your time. It's probably hours and hours, and if you add it up, it's probably weeks. And you could have done a lot of good with that if you really care about climbing to the next level. But what you could have accomplished based on your ability relative to what you did accomplish, there's going to always be a gap. That's why you can always keep climbing, because you ain't never going to get to the top of that mountain. Because if you keep climbing, your abilities is just going to get greater and greater. So the gap between what you accomplish and your ability, I think it gets wider as you grow. It doesn't really get narrower. It gets wider. So that's just something to think about right there. I'm going to move on to another quote. This one comes from, I might get his name wrong, but I read a book of his some time ago. He actually sent it to me. I met with him down in Louisiana near New Orleans where he lives, but he's got a book called Gratitude Marketing. I'm sure that's where this quote come from. If you're in business for yourself, or even if you're not in business for yourself, but if you're in sales, customer service, that kind of stuff, if you're dealing with the customers, that Gratitude Marketing book may be something that you'd like to read through and get some nuggets from. But anyway, this one of the golden nuggets I got out of that book, I'm sure. His name's Michael F. Ciortino Sr., I think. I don't know how to say his last name. It's Sciortino. Anyway, he says, the fantastic thing about life is that every day you have the freedom to decide whether you want the rest of your years to be the best of your years. All about choice. If you've listened to my podcast a lot, you know I talk a lot about choice. But you have the freedom to decide in 2024 whether you want the rest of your years to be the best of your years. I mean, there's people out there that could be listening to this podcast, maybe not, but you already know this. This one's so simple to validate for yourself. There's people out there in the world today who going to make some stupid choices. They ain't going to be here tomorrow, much less next week, next month, next year. That's how bad of a choice some people are going to make today. But every day that you're alive, you have the freedom to decide whether you want the rest of your years to be the best of your years, according to Mr. Mike. I agree with him. You can, anytime in your life, you have the freedom to push the reset button and become someone else. You know, one way I know that in May of 2012, that's when I hit the reset button and I stopped drinking alcohol. Hadn't had a drop since. August 2012, I hit the reset button. I quit using profanity. I've only said one word, and it wasn't even that bad of a cuss word, but it was one word, and I was actually changing out a toilet in our restroom, and I was trying to place that thing back down on that wax spacer there, and somehow I dropped that toilet and mashed my thumb up underneath it, and that was just not that long ago. Last year, I think, maybe, or 2 years ago, something like that. But I slipped the word out. But literally, that is the only one single word of profanity that's come out of my mouth since 2012, and I felt terrible about it because I used to always be able to say, I ain't said a single cuss word since then. Now, I still say what I always did. That's when I chose to stop using profanity, but I slipped that one time. But I'm just sharing a couple of key examples where I hit the reset button. My life started getting better. I got lots of examples relative to my health where I made choices. Like I quit drinking sodas and all that sort of thing in 2018. How am I going to ever know the difference it made? I won't literally know, but I know I got enough intelligence to realize I stopped filling my body with all this junk and all these chemicals that my life's going to be better. I'm going to be healthier. I'm going to live longer. It ain't just chemicals and stuff like that, though. It's toxic people. I've removed a lot of toxic people out of my life over the years. There may be toxic people you need to get out of your life. They may be close to you. They may be blood related. You got to figure it out. All right, enough on that one. Let's move on to this next one. This is from an old book I read. I don't remember the name of the book, but I remember this author's name. I remember it was like early 1900s. His name was Russell H. Conwell is the person who this quote come from, and he's talking about somebody somewhere in a different country. I think, I don't know, but you'll understand the gist of it as I read it off. And I'm gonna butcher up this name, but the name doesn't even matter. But it's something like Elihu Burett is the name. This person acquired a knowledge of 50 languages During the years, he earned his livelihood as a village blacksmith. He also found time for extensive reading, as well as time for interest in social reforms, in the advancement of which he won the reputation of being one of the most powerful and persuasive orators of his day. All his stupendous acquirements were gained during the hours between his tasks, which thousands of other village blacksmiths were accustomed to spend in gossip or in the tavern. So that was just a simple little story, but that's the difference in making something happen, being intentional with your time. I think back to that quote from John Wooden: don't measure yourself by what you have accomplished, but rather by what you should have accomplished with your ability. So compared to most of the blacksmiths, they sitting around talking in between tasks. They go into the bar, tavern, after work on weekends. But not that Elihu. That person was on a mission. I mean, they learned to speak 50 languages and found time for extensive reading between all their blacksmithing. That's the difference between what you're capable of versus just getting by. Some of those other blacksmiths, they may have been phenomenal, but what'd they leave on the table? It's happening. I see people all over the place talking about they ain't got no time. They got so much time they wasting, it is pitiful. They don't see it as being wasteful. I mean, I know people they into college sports. They can tell you every person on the team, on each team, on all the teams that's in there. Say the Southeastern Conference where I live, they can tell you all about it. They know all the stats. They know so much it's ridiculous. But it ain't helping them in life. It's just what they're interested in, and that's okay. But their life ain't where they want it to be, and they make all these kind of excuses. They just forget to look at the one thing that's really holding them back. And it's that person staring back in the mirror at them. And I ain't saying this to beat you up or to get you stop watching college football or any of that kind of stuff. I'm just saying, if you get real with yourself, you got an opportunity to invest in yourself. You ain't got to go to college. You can go. You ain't got to go. But you got to take the time you got and do something with it. Let's move on to another quote. This one is another quote from John Maxwell. He says, no matter what our circumstances, our greatest limitation isn't the leader above us, it's the spirit within us. What I was just talking about. No matter what our circumstances, our greatest limitation isn't the leader above us, it's the spirit within us. I hear so many people talking about their leaders holding them back. What a ridiculous statement. Ain't no leader holding anybody back unless that person allows them to do it, which if that's the case, the leader ain't holding them back. The person who's allowing the leader to hold him back is the real person who's holding them back. Just like that blacksmith story. Anybody who's got a job they don't want, reporting to a leader they don't want, they got all kind of time when they're not at work to develop themselves and create some options and get out from under the leader they don't like or the job they don't like or the company they don't like, whatever it is. Anybody serious about it, they're going to take responsibility and make it happen. I don't know if that's you. Maybe it is. Maybe it ain't. But if you are the kind of person that's blaming your leader for what's going on, like a lot of people blame their leader. They're like, well, I don't want to leave this company. They got great benefits, or they in this location or that location. Okay, that's fine. You can say, I don't want to leave because I like the benefit, so I'm staying. That's a choice. But if you choose to stay, it ain't the leader's fault. You got to get with the reality. And there's a lot of people who ain't dealing with reality out there, and they paying the price for it. Let me move on to another quote. This one's from James Allen. He wrote a book I really like, but I don't know if that's where this quote came from. I downloaded on iBooks on my iPhone. You can download his complete works, every book he's ever read. A lot of people's books you can do that. The older authors. And his book's written in the early 1900s. His name is James Allen, but he wrote as a man thinketh. It's a really good one, and I don't know if that's where this nugget come from or not. This is what he had to say. You are today where your thoughts brought you. You will be tomorrow where your thoughts take you. That's more of that leadership truth. It's kind of like a surgeon's scalpel. It might hurt, it might sting, but it's meant to help. That's what James Allen was doing right there. He was giving you a little leadership truth. You are today where your thoughts brought you. You'll be tomorrow where your thoughts take you. It ain't got nothing to do with the boss. It ain't got nothing to do with the spouse. It ain't got nothing to do with the kids. It ain't got nothing to do with the government, society, whatever. All those are great excuses. But we are exactly where we're supposed to be based on every choice we've ever made leading up to this moment. That's the truth. All right. One last thing to wrap you up with is kind of a little story from Jim Rohn, R-O-H-N. Don't know where I got this. I have read a book of quotes from him. I think that could be it, but I've read a lot of books that quoted him, so it could have been from somewhere else. But anyway, we're going to wrap up on this one here. And this is the words of Jim Rohn. I'll let you know when I'm done with the quote because it's kind of long, but everything I'm about to say is from him. He says, people often ask me how I became successful in that 6-year period of time, while many of the people I knew did not. The answer is simple. The things I found to be easy to do, they found to be easy not to do. I found it easy to set the goals that could change my life. They found it easy not to. I found it easy to read the books that could affect my thinking and my ideas. They found that easy not to do. I found it easy to attend classes and seminars and to get around other successful people. They said it probably really wouldn't matter. If I had to sum it up, I would say what I found to be easy to do, they found to be easy not to do. 6 years later, I'm a millionaire, and they are all still blaming the economy, the government, and company policies. Yet they neglected to do the basic, easy things. That's just a thought I'm sharing with you from Jim Rohn. Don't know what it meant to you, but I thought it fit real good with the quotes that I was sharing with you as you kick off this new year, 2024. The things that some people find easy to do, that move them ahead, guess what? Other people find those things are easy not to do. Just like I've been reading every day since 2008. That's easy to do. But there's a whole lot of people out there find reading is easy not to do. So they don't do it. That's just one example. But I'm gonna drop it right here and for today. Leave you with a quote that I opened with from Karen Lamb. A year from now, you will wish you had started today. Hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mac Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon, iTunes, and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mac's books, programs, special offers, certifications, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.